There are many things I expected from 2024, but I could not sit here and honestly tell you that Ariana Grande comforting Cynthia Erivo by holding her finger on the Wicked press tour, Trump going on Joe Rogan, and a sentient baby enticed by a vacation to the Four Seasons Orlando were on my bingo card. So this year, we're making our very own bingo card, and I'm going to shamelessly take you through all of my predictions across media, internet culture, pop culture, and politics. From the Diving Board is a show hosted by me, Charlie Chats, dedicated to decoding digital culture by unpacking the hidden politics behind the screen. Welcome back to another episode of From the Diving Board. In today's video, we're doing a bit more of a light-hearted take on what my predictions are for 2025 in the culture and media landscape. Today's video is very much inspired by Nikki Riordan, a fantastic YouTube creator and Spotify producer, so I would highly recommend going and checking out his video as well. He discusses his 2025 bingo list for the year. Honestly, it was really hard to come up with different ideas than his because they were all so spot on. Like, I listened to it the other day and I was just nodding along while I was on my walk the entire time, like, yep. Today's video is not really like any of my other videos. I'm keeping it nice and lighthearted because I honestly think we deserve a bit more of a lighthearted video, guys. It's been a huge year this year. I feel like I personally have lived about 9 lives, and I don't think the sentiment is unique to me. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way about this year. I truly don't even know how all of this has happened in one 365 package deal. Like, what do you mean? It feels like I've been sold the most insane roller coaster and it's been so awesome. I've done so many different things, but looking back, I'm like, how is that 1 year? And yet, in the same time, how are we going into 2025 already? I have to say, the response to my YouTube videos has been, and my Spotify videos as well, has been just beyond what I could have ever imagined. I've been very, very pleasantly surprised, and over the, I think, 6 videos I've made so far, we've somehow reached 400,000 views and almost 7,000 subscribers as I'm filming this today, which is just so surreal. Like, I don't even have the words to thank you. I'm so grateful for the support. All of your comments are always so well thought out and so insightful, and it just brings me a lot of hope for, I feel like a teacher. I'm like, it brings me a lot of hope for this generation, but it really does. Like, I think that when we're on TikTok, and one of the reasons that inspired me to even create this channel was that when we're on TikTok and stuff, it can feel like nuance has kind of left the conversation online. But seeing the way that people engage with long form content, both on my channel and also on other people's channels, is just really exciting and nice to see. You know, nuanced conversation hasn't died, okay? It hasn't died. All that is to say that this video is going to be a bit more lighthearted. We're, very minimal research today. We're just going off of vibes and we're having a bit of fun. I mean, many of these ideas I actually do have videos planned in the works for, so I'm not going to speak too much about them. Reflecting on this year though, something that was definitely a bit of a learning curve as a new creator was figuring out how to make my videos and content more professional. I think it can be kind of a whirlwind being thrown into this new crazy industry where, unless you reach out to different creators, it can be really, really hard to figure out what you should do and how you should make things and how to separate yourself out from the crowd. Up until very recently, I was basically just going off vibes, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that something that's really, really, really helped me has been using Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. Skillshare has been particularly helpful for me as a new creator, learning different skills such as video editing, researching, how to actually market my social media, and what kind of things engage my audience. There are thousands of different classes that are available to me in this niche, which has been so incredible. Recently, I've been really enjoying Jordan Teresa's class on video essay making. It was really awesome to see someone that I admired on Skillshare. As you may be aware, I am a huge fan of making education more accessible to different populations, and so if you are too, the first 500 people to use the link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today. A massive thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Alrighty, let's get into it. Less celebrities are going to attend the Met Gala and Fashion Week this year, which I think is going to fit in with an overarching trend of distaste for luxury fashion. I spoke about this a little bit in my Relatable to Luxury Pipeline video, which I'll also link below, of course, especially with the LVMH sweatshop scandal of last year. I think that the incredible kind of artisan allure of luxury fashion is dwindling, and we're starting to see an insight into what really happens in many luxury fashion factories. In relation to the Met Gala, I do think it's going to be a particularly interesting one, given this year the theme is super fine tailoring black fashion, which is a really important one for honouring the significant influence of black culture on fashion. However, there are of course criticisms and concerns about the potential for the theme to encourage cultural appropriation and potentially whitewash black culture, which are extremely valid. For Cosmopolitan, Ian Artan wrote, "There is so much to balance, so much care that needs to be taken in bringing this theme to life, and as of right now, many do not know if it can be pulled off. For the gala to be a success in my eyes, it needs to showcase black fashion in all its forms. Black media and fashion commentators should be given priority access to cover the carpet. Black stylists should be working with all the guests. Black designers showcased in the exhibit on the carpet. Black makeup and hair teams working with the talent. There should be no doubt about who that night belongs to." And in this regard, I think there will be a lot of interest for the Met Gala as well. So perhaps the exodus will be more confined to Fashion Week rather than the Met Gala. I don't know if this is controversial. I think Matilda Djerf is just going to bounce back. I really don't think that she's going to suffer too much from the reputational damage of the Aftenbladet news investigation of her brand Djerf Avenue, which I covered in a recent video. I think that she's going to come back sort of slowly seeping back into our social media feeds, almost to the extent that we don't overtly realize that she has made the return. Like, it's not going to make news at all. But I do think that she might take a step back from Djerf Avenue, the brand itself. I think we're also going to see more conversation about media literacy among politicians and also big public figures. This is particularly in light of the under 16 social media ban that's set to come in effect at the end of 2025 in Australia. I think that a ban like this is going to raise conversations about how we then navigate the introduction of social media once children do turn 16, and what kind of skills we need to build up to enable these teenagers to act insightfully with these platforms, because otherwise, I don't know, it could be a bit of a sticky situation. We're already seeing the effects of media illiteracy among older generations as well. In fact, a lot of people would argue that Gen Alpha are actually the most media literate generation. Okay, number 4. Sales for paperback books are going to skyrocket. As you would have known if you watched my previous video, in the UK, sales did skyrocket this year, but I think it's going to be a bit more of a widespread skyrocket event, and we might even see a, not decline, but people will be opting for paperback books as opposed to Kindles. I think this is mainly because, as I spoke about in my previous video, we are just so chronically online, and being offline has become something that is aspirational. We're online for our jobs, we're online for our recreation, we're online for leisure, we're online to communicate with friends. Something tangible like a paperback book is going to be something that people really crave. That feeling of like flipping through the pages almost has a nostalgic vibe to it as well. Number 5. In a similar vein, we're going to see a rise in digital detox core. Again, something I spoke about in my previous video. But in this sense, I kind of more mean we're going to see a rise in, say, Airbnb's marketing not having kind of any link to the internet. We're going to see people going camping more frequently. And the reason why I say we're going to see is I think that people are going to switch off their phones for the periods that they are at these places, but they're going to be taking pictures and then posting them online when they get back. And by people, I don't mean just everyday people, because we've been camping forever, guys. This ain't anything new. I more mean celebrities, public figures, and influencers promoting the fact that they've been offline rather than just everyday folk. If you're still detoxing for a few days and you take a few snaps, I mean, that's kind of something I would do. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I think the next one many people have predicted as well, but Trump and Elon Musk are going to have a public falling out. This was also predicted by Nikki Riordan, but I think he hit the nail on the head when he said there's going to be like Twitter wars. The memes that come from this are going to be hilarious. I don't know whether or not they're going to fully sever ties. Like, I think it's going to be publicly dramatic, but low-key they'll remain kind of civil with each other. The reason I predict this though is I think they're two massively powerful men that are way too connected right now. I think their narcissism is going to really collide with each other, and we're going to end up in this kind of hellscape situation for each of them. And surely eventually there's going to be some issues in relation to their values and viewpoints. The year of the messy girls on social media and in pop. Also, I just realized that my nail polish is literally chapping so bad. Literally being a messy girl right now, guys. Like, I hope you appreciate my chapped nail polish as a prop for this. I think that artists like Lola Young with her hit song literally called Messy, but also artists like Chappell Roan, who are sort of taking this fame into their own stride and kind of redefining what it means to be famous and what it means to be a public figure who is literally putting music out into the world as a career, but the only way to gain success is through commercialization. And as a result, you end up with these huge amount of fans, and dealing with that experience, I feel like we've seen a really interesting side to someone like Chappell Roan, who speaks about this experience in a way that no one really has before. I do think authenticity couched as messiness is going to be on the rise this year. The decline in the skincare industry. Now, I don't know whether this one's wishful thinking, but I just think that we're kind of bombarded with skincare routines and skincare. We have been for the last year or so, particularly with the clean girl aesthetic. And then the clean girl aesthetic has kind of lost its momentum a little bit, which was particularly defined when 10-year-olds stormed Sephora. What the heck, guys? I don't understand. We're starting to see what's wrong with the skincare industry, particularly with movies like The Substance, which question anti-aging beauty ideology. Do I think that skincare is going to go completely out of fashion? Absolutely not. We're still going to see lots of skincare, and we're still going to go and buy skincare because, you know, minimal skincare is good for you, but I think emphasis on minimal. The decline of mainstream media. So what I mean by this one is, I think during the election we were really shown how candidates were prioritizing podcasts over sit-down TV shows and TV networks and media interviews. We saw this with Trump on Joe Rogan and of course Kamala Harris on Call Her Daddy. And I think we're going to see this seep into Australian media as well. Australia has our upcoming election coming up this year, and I think we're going to start to see politicians embrace social media personalities as a form of networking and marketing for their own policies. I do think this one deserves a full video of its own, but from what I've read, it's really interesting because a lot of people say that politicians have been able to sort of get away with just quoting slogans instead of actually articulating their specific policies. I think we're going to see this being used a lot more by politicians globally. Ooh, number 10 is certain celebrities are going to take a backseat from social media. Perhaps even Charli XCX are going to fully just not post on social media for a year or a matter of months. I sort of spoke about this a little bit in my previous video, and also what Zara Loves from Taboo on the Bus has spoken about this. There is going to be this kind of aspiration in being mysterious, that certain celebrities are going to take a step back, and being able to take a step back from social media while maintaining a massive platform and influence on beauty trends, for example, is going to be considered kind of the aspirational quality. So yeah, I'm predicting that Charli XCX and maybe even one of the Kardashians is just gonna disappear. Now, Charli XCX has announced that following her Brat tour, she'll be taking to acting for the rest of the year, so perhaps in her case she will be more offline due to this acting career. But I do think we'll see a bit of a digital detox trend across the board. It won't be limited to one or two celebrities. Number 11, I think this year is going to bring the return of print media in a sort of more mainstream way. What I mean by this is more magazines in hard copy, despite the fact that in recent years, many companies did take back their hardcover magazines. But we're already seeing this with Australian fashion magazine Elle and a number of other magazines as well. I've seen a lot of research online to suggest that wealthier people are actually more likely to engage with an ad if it's in print media rather than online. But I think that also this might come as a bit of a rejection of the exhaustingly fast trend cycles that we see on TikTok. It's so hard to keep up with what's in fashion and what's on trend because TikTok just seems to have new fashion trends every single day. So I think that having a hard copy magazine is going to kind of slow down those trends a little bit more and maybe act as a buffer for the information overload that social media sometimes has, especially in relation to fashion and trend cycles. There's also the big nostalgia factor of flipping through a magazine like many of us did when we were younger, which I think you'll find is a bit of a core theme throughout this video. I think we're going to see a lot more nostalgia core. Number 12, I think that we're going to see a decline in trust for influencer brands. I've already spoken about this in another video, and I do think that we're already seeing a decline in trust for influencer brands. I mean, if you look at Jeff Avenue, molly-mae's brand Maybe, and if you also look at Madeline White's recent pajama brand scandal, kind of speaks for itself. There's going to be a lot more pressure on influencer brands to live up to expectations, especially if they're claiming to be sustainable or use sort of greenwashing practices in their marketing. I think we're going to, particularly on TikTok, see a lot of scrutiny over these brands in particular. 13. In the same vein, I think that many influencers are going to choose not to launch fashion brands and instead launch different things such as books and also more food-based brands. I mean, this isn't anything new. We saw it with Emma Chamberlain with Chamberlain Coffee, but I think it's going to become more the common trend to do a non-fashion brand than a fashion brand in 2025 just because of the significant disappointment and scandal and kind of the ease with which it actually is to research ethics of a fashion brand these days, which is so incredible. Having resources at your fingertips to be able to determine whether what you're buying is ethical and pressuring brands to make sure that they're more ethical than other brands and more ethical in an industry that's kind of designed to exploit other people. I think this is so cool that we're becoming, that these brands are becoming more and more transparent. The rise in sober culture. I think that we've already sort of started to see this year, especially since the pandemic actually. But I think that there's going to be, especially with the lack of third spaces other than going to a bar and getting a drink, I think that we're going to see more and more sober third spaces appear. Obviously, this was inspired by running clubs and the ability for running clubs to kind of allow people who are single to meet each other. I think that we're going to see this in other areas too for people who don't like running and just for different ways of meeting people. I think we're going to see this perhaps with like coffee clubs and book clubs, and something my brother was even talking about was sober discos, which apparently were really popular in Scotland. I think we're just going to see a rise in sober culture become more mainstream this year and a rise in third spaces that don't center alcohol, which is something that I'm very excited for. I do drink alcohol, but I'm kind of starting to limit my consumption just because it doesn't feel like something that I want to have as a common thing in my life. So it would just be nice to have some alternatives. Number 15 is really random just because I've been seeing so much about it recently, but I think the Molly-mae documentary is going to be fine. It's not going to be crazy and it's not going to be hated, but I don't think it's going to reveal much more than she's already revealed on her YouTube. I don't think that this documentary is going to uncover a whole heap, and I don't know whether it's going to reach audiences that don't already know and love her. I think that it's kind of one of those documentaries that her fan base, which is very big in the UK, cannot be underestimated, but I don't know whether it's going to sort of attract more people outside of that network and bubble to her channel. And I say this with love. I do really like molly-mae. I think she comes off as a really, really sweet person. Of course, I've spoken about mistakes with her brand Maybe and the possibility that it is fast fashion. But look, maybe I just have a parasocial relationship with her. That is very possible. Collectible toys are going to remain popular, but the Sunny Angel is no longer going to take the crown as the idolized mainstream collectible toy in current pop culture. I think that the rise in collectibles has been a really fascinating phenomenon to observe. I didn't actually even learn about Sunny Angels until quite recently, so I'm very behind the trend. Okay, I'll admit that. They've been around for years. Like many collectibles, a lot of people who are really, really into collectibles never stop collecting them. I think it's quite interesting that a toy like the Sunny Angel has kind of moved out of that niche collectible space and into the mainstream space, gaining attraction from people who haven't really participated in collectible culture ever before, which is really, really interesting. I think the nostalgia core quality is going to kind of mean that people are still going to seek some sort of collectible toy that reminds them of their childhood and brings joy, but they're not going to be as popular just because they're so accessible and easy to acquire now that you can buy them on TikTok Shop. Also, other websites have kind of duped them, etc. So I think as soon as we come across a dupe, usually we unfortunately see the decline in obsession for the real deal. Thinking maybe cards, maybe stickers. That was something I used to collect when I was in primary school. Camera's running low, so we're going to have to do a quick fire round for the last ones, but that's okay because this is where it gets a little absurd. Next one, absolutely wishful thinking from me. Absolutely not backed by anything. Number 17, I think we're going to see a rise in more influencers who are promoting aging gracefully rather than promoting, say, getting work done. Influencers over 40 are going to gain popularity just because it differs so much to what we've been seeing, again, particularly after the substance. Don't know why that's getting so much traction and conversation on this video, but I think after the substance, we may change our following habits on social media, who knows, and try and follow a more diverse range of beauty standards and people. Number 18, Northwest is going to say something outrageous and she's going to accidentally reveal something like a scandal about her family. The only thing that backs up this hypothesis is, one, she's an icon, she's hilarious. Two, we've seen that clip where she basically can't lie. Kim says that Northwest never lies, even when it's rude, or she should really say a white lie in Kim's view. Nara and Lucky B. Smith are going to reveal to the internet that the whole time it was a bit. They're not actually trad husband and wife, and that they're actually going to launch a podcast. And yeah, I'm not really sure what they'll talk about. Probably lifestyle, probably vibes. Probably vibes. This is where you know we're getting delirious. Number 20, the much awaited Jojo Siwa rebrand. I fully believe that she is also having us on and that she is actually like a really cool person, and this whole karma bad girl thing is rage bait, which is working really, really, really successfully. And I think that we're going to see a rebrand where she actually comes into her own and all of her haters become her fans. It's going to be a bit Addison Rae-esque, but I think that we're going to see Jojo do it in a very uniquely her way. We're going to get an insight into who she really is as a person. 21. Skinny jeans do not make a comeback. This is, again, entirely wishful thinking on my part. I think that if they do make a comeback, I simply won't see it. I will simply be walking around like this. I just can't fathom the day that skinny jeans become the norm. I actually really don't believe they will become the norm. I don't know. I just don't think that they will come back with such veracity as they did in 2012. Even though I do believe that 2010's aesthetic is absolutely coming back in terms of fashion. I think it's going to come back in a slightly more nuanced way, and I don't think skinny jeans are going to be it. I just don't. There's going to be a crossover episode with Joe Rogan and Alex Cooper. I think this would be so interesting. Like, imagine how polarizing their viewers and listeners are, and imagine just how incredible it would be to see that conversation pan out. Knowing just how massive their viewership is, both independently. One, it could be an insanely incredible marketing move, but two, I think in a landscape on social media where there is an increasing polarization between the left and right, and also between men and women, this could be a fantastic way to kind of show how to navigate difficult conversations with people when you have starkly opposing viewpoints. I would so listen to that. I think that it would actually mutually benefit each of them. 23. The internet becomes obsessed with Melania Trump. I don't know if this is even a crowning event. This is just something I thought of that I thought was hee hee ha ha silly. I think we've already started to see this with edits, you know, the classic edits during her previous experience as the First Lady, where she would brush away Trump's hand. I think that there is going to be this kind of idolization of Melania Trump, and we're going to see people kind of project this image of who she is onto her. I don't know if we're ever going to really figure out like who she is, but I think the rhetoric that she's like a silent fighter from within the White House against Trump is going to gain a lot of traction online. I've already seen videos slightly discuss this. There was one commentary video I saw on TikTok which spoke about the fact that Melania Trump had made a comment where she was pro-abortion, which is obviously a view not shared by Donald Trump. So yeah, the person who made the video made this comment. Maybe we're going to see this kind of ticking time bomb, and maybe Melania Trump's the person who's going to kind of be the catalyst for the downfall of her husband. I'm not sure if it's going to be that extreme. However, I do think they were going to continue to project these ideologies onto her as maybe even this kind of last hope kind of rhetoric. But that is my bingo list. We finally made it to the end. That was a yap and a half. I'm genuinely pooped. For some reason, I decided to film this one at night. Going crazy over here. This is my wild Friday night. Like quite literally, this is a Friday night for me. I don't know whether any of these are really going to happen, but let me know what your bingo list predictions are for 2025. I'd be fascinated to know what you think. I'd be fascinated to know if you agree with any of my predictions. Obviously, some of these are just some really silly predictions, and this was ultimately a very silly video. It was just a bit of fun, and I hope you enjoyed. I can't wait to get back into video essay making in the next few weeks. I've got so many topics, literally so many topics that I want to film, and I've been writing like multiple scripts at once. It's honestly getting a little bit overwhelming. That's something that you can look forward to in the next few weeks and across 2025. Once again, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Anyway, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.